Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Natalie Boyum, and I am the president and founder of the Defeating Epilepsy Foundation. We are a 501c3 in Southern California, and our mission is to provide the advocacy and educational resources needed to the epilepsy community and our society. Today, our guest is Samuel Chigamba. Samuel is an epilepsy activist, motivational speaker, and online entrepreneur. Samuel has epilepsy and resides in Malawi, a country in Eastern Africa where many with epilepsy are lacking the resources they need to battle epilepsy. Samuel, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
One of the biggest challenges individuals with epilepsy face is the stigma that's associated with epilepsy. The stigma can be felt on a global level. Even though we are thousands of miles apart, Samuel and I have shared stories of our struggles with epilepsy with each other and can relate to so many things. It goes to show the effect epilepsy has on the global community and why we must unite and advocate for one another, no matter where we are. Samuel, how old were you when you were diagnosed with epilepsy, and did the doctors know the cause?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me. When I was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 12, and during my diagnosis, my doctor did not know the cause of my epilepsy. He mentioned that he interviewed my parents. So he said that because I had a few bike accidents, I also had cerebral malaria growing up, and also my birth wasn't normal. I think my mom had a cesarean C-section, so he didn't really know the cause. So the cause is unknown. Yeah.
What was it like growing up with epilepsy in Malawi, and how did it affect your family?
Growing up with epilepsy in Malawi was a bit hard for me. Yeah, it was a challenge because I didn't know what epilepsy was at the time, and so did my parents and my peers. To go through a lot to lose my independence. I was told not to ride my bike anymore. Stop driving the car, and my parents had to use a lot of money to get me to see a good doctor, which was a bit hard for them because it was like all attention was on me. So also for the family, I think my brother and sisters were a bit affected because my parents' attention was all on me. So it's been hard. Yeah, yeah.
No, and it's a story I could very much relate to because it was the same thing growing up as a child. I didn't really understand what epilepsy was till I started to get older, and it really did impact my family. There was a lot of limitations of what we could all do together because of my epilepsy. And I feel it wasn't until I went to college and I was independent from my family that my parents and siblings could really have some quality time together, which was it was very difficult to see, but at the same time, looking back now, I understand why they needed that time. It was almost I guess you could say, a time to heal for themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
What challenges have you faced having epilepsy as an adult?
Yeah. Firstly, I would say that finding a job or just getting financial independence has been a challenge throughout my life, and especially as an adult. And also I've noticed that though I've worked around people who are most of them are very educated, so I noticed that there was so much stigma, in a way that most people could not take, most of the things that I would say. Say I was in a business meeting or was doing something, and I had something to say. It was like people did not take it. They didn't want to, take my views or my points as something that's important. So that's been a challenge because my life has been, I had to prove myself over and over again that, I have the potential, I have the skills, and, I can participate and do something in society. Yeah, so it's been a big challenge. Yeah.
I think it is one of the biggest challenges for us as adults battling epilepsy. I admit trying to get through college and have established career was very difficult because I
Yes.
just having seizures and having at that time when I was younger, I wasn't doing as bad as some people, but they still weren't truly controlled. And even despite now, I haven't lost consciousness in 16 years. I've been very lucky. I'm nowhere near where I was years ago when it came to seizure activity. I'm
Yeah,
still
that's
not
wonderful.
taken seriously over here. And it really came down to the point I just found I had to be my own boss to survive. I'm not sick enough
Yes.
to be on disability, but yet many people in our community out here do not see me as somebody they want to have working for them. And even what's so disappointing is when I went on to graduate school, I had people who were very supportive of me creating my foundation and doing my advocacy work. But there were people, both classmates and sadly in a couple situations, a couple professors, most of my professors were, I can say they've been wonderful, they've been supportive, they've been even in touch with me since I've graduated and helping me with things. But there were a couple who made just the attitude was, why would they let someone of your kind into this school? Why would they allow someone of your kind to receive a higher education? I mean, they had no problem taking my money, but the thought of allowing me to have the tools and resources to better myself, I could tell clearly a lot were very upset with the university for giving me the chance.
I would say that I think the challenges for African, for the whole world, are a bit similar. Yeah, yeah. It's the same thing here also. Yeah, yeah. Because even with my school, especially when I was in secondary school, that was when I was having recurrent seizures. I remember there was a certain teacher who would say, I don't think this guy has seizures. He couldn't believe that I have epilepsy, and besides seeing me seizing, he couldn't believe it. There was so much stigma, and I think there's need for more awareness on that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the things I'm really lucky. Some of the advocates that I'm partnered with over here are really
Yes.
pushing hard. A mother I know, her son has epilepsy. He's in his early teens, and she's in New Jersey, and she is fighting. You wouldn't believe, like, oh, I mean, she's passed the seizure safety law. She helped contribute to that to help protect kids who have seizures in school, to get the right attention, to have the faculty and administrators to truly understand what's going on. And she is fighting at a nationwide level. But I see so many families, with children who are just beyond frustrated because they feel in this time and place, and justifiably so, that their children should have the right to an education and not face discrimination. It's ironic with my sons having hemophilia, they're not epileptic, but even in their situation, it's not even really the kids who are bullying them. You'll have a handful of teachers or a handful of administrators, just that one or two, who go, why should someone of their kind be allowed in our school? Why
Yes.
should
Yeah.
someone of their kind be given these opportunities? They automatically assume they're just going to go on disability. They're not going to work. They're not going to contribute. So why waste their time educating
Yes.
them or giving them the potential? And I think it is so wrong. And I'm happy to see there are parents over here and there are people in here saying enough is enough. It doesn't matter if you have epilepsy or not. Everybody
Yeah.
should have the opportunity to learn and to set goals and be able to achieve what they can in life.
Yes. Yes. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So despite having epilepsy, you have become a successful entrepreneur. Being a social entrepreneur myself, I have found that I had to become my own boss to survive here in America. Do you feel employers understand epilepsy and are willing to hire people with epilepsy?
Most employers do not understand epilepsy, and most of them are not willing to hire people with epilepsy. For example, the case with Malawi. I've met a lot of people who, were fired from their jobs, just after their employer noticing that they have epilepsy. We have people who have epilepsy and are bankers. Some of them are bankers. We have teachers with epilepsy. We have lawyers. But the thing is, most of them, their employer does not know that they have epilepsy. And the thing is that they have epilepsy and they do not have they are seizure free. So yeah, it's like they don't have the condition, so the employer doesn't know. That's why they're still employed. So it's a challenge, despite having policies is documents like the Disability Act. We still have much. There's still much to be done. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
myself, when my seizures became controlled and I went to the workforce, I pretty much did the same thing those bankers and attorneys did. I became very silent. And not because I didn't want to advocate for my community. At that time, I was single, and I really feared that if I said anything, I would lose my job, I would lose my medical benefits. And with the cost of medication here in America, the medicines I were on at that time, they were $1,000 a month out of pocket. I had an interview recently with a neurologist, and I was telling him, because of the way the healthcare system is over here being based on a free market, I was much put into a position where I couldn't advocate for myself at that point, because was I going to work and pay my bills, or was I going to lose my job and risk being homeless because I couldn't afford anything? I had to choose, do I have a home and survive, or do I advocate and risk losing everything I've worked hard for?
sorry, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I hope our work and time, I know it won't happen overnight, but I hope our work and time over here will open the eyes to many and
yeah,
help make things for the better. I mean, talking to people over here, especially talking to people in my field, they were very hesitant. They couldn't understand why I was advocating so much for people to be in the workforce. And I let them know, I said 70% of people who have seizures can control it with medication. They can become seizure free and have it well controlled. And I said, there's
yes,
3.4 million people here with epilepsy in the United States. If you take
yes,
70% of those people, rather than stigmatize them, rather than bullying them onto disability, why not help them get into the workforce, whether they learn a
yeah,
trade, have their own business, go on for higher education? I mean, if you give them the opportunity, rather than depending on the taxpayers to pay for them to survive, let them make their own money, let them work, let them pay into the system, let them pay to help improve their communities and improve
yeah,
our society overall. And when I explained to them the level of economic growth we could achieve just removing the stigma off of people with epilepsy, many of them responded to me, "I never thought of that." And I said, well, when
yeah,
you stigmatize communities, not just epilepsy, but many people who have different disabilities, whether physical or it's an invisible illness, you actually punish all of society, because not
yes,
only are you taking away opportunities from people who could, contribute, you're taking resources from others as well.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what is the healthcare system like in Malawi for people with epilepsy?
I would say, firstly, I would say that, firstly, I'm very appreciative of the Malawian government. I would say that we have a good healthcare system. As persons with epilepsy, we receive our medication for free, which most African countries do not provide the medication for free. So, like for myself, I've been epileptic for um, quite a few years. I think it's been 19 years, if I'm not mistaken. But throughout those years, I've been taking my medication for free. So I would say that we have quite a good healthcare system, besides having a few challenges, which I know that the government is working around to solve them. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. To know that you can get your medication for free, that right there is beyond life-saving for so many. And the fact that the government acknowledges, despite that success, there's work to be done improving changes, probably mainly for how society is reacting to people with epilepsy. The fact that they acknowledge they can continue to do better, I really think
Yeah.
that's wonderful, because there's parts of Africa where I work with others. For example, working with Dr. Kasadi in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's been one of the
Yeah.
biggest challenges we have, is the DRC does not provide free medication for patients with epilepsy, and we've really had to advocate to find private organizations, other nonprofits, to help get medication and other resources into the clinic for these patients. And thankfully, we're making great success, and we are finding people. In fact, we just finished an agreement, and a pharmaceutical company there, along with Roe Foundation, are going to make
Yeah.
sure that all of Dr. Casati's patients have their medication. It was such a great accomplishment for us. It was one that I felt I didn't know if I could make it happen. And the fact that it is going to happen really brings me a lot of happiness. And I hope that we can work in time throughout Africa to make it possible for other patients too.
Yeah, actually, I'm also happy for that accomplishment. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, many people that I work with in Africa have told me the hardships about people with epilepsy and what they face. Many are denied an education, employment opportunities, or the right to marry. Do people with epilepsy in Malawi have access to education, employment, and the right to marry?
Yeah, firstly, I think I would like to say that I think the challenges for Africa are quite similar. Persons with epilepsy in Malawi also face, similar challenges. Most of them do not enjoy their right to education. Most of them do not access employment. And on the issue of marriage, I think in the past it was a challenge, but now with the coming in of human rights organizations, I think parents and most people are now aware that everyone has a right to marry. So in that area, I think it's just a few people who face that challenge. Yeah. So and I think on the issues of uh, persons with epilepsy failing to enjoy their right to education, in most cases, I found that in those cases which I found, learners were forced to withdraw from school by school authorities. Mostly it was the learners who were having recurrent seizures. So myself and with a couple of friends, we had to go and advocate, talk to the school and some authorities. That the child has right to education, needs to go back to school, and she was re-enrolled, because one thing that I'm proud of from Malawi, we have inclusive education. Every child with disability has the right to go to school. So we have it on paper, like the Disability Act, states it. So for us, it's easy, to work around that. And another challenge is parents. Most parents are ashamed of their children. They don't want to send their child to school. So that's where the challenges come in. And on employment, I think I also mentioned that most people fail to access employment. And I think mostly is for those who have recurrent seizures. But I have one example, a good one actually. There was a certain company which employed someone, and that person started having seizures while they were employed, but they were given reasonable accommodation.
Oh,
They won't,
wonderful.
they won't fight. So the thing is, the boss had a nephew with epilepsy. So I think he knew what it is for a person with epilepsy, the challenge that people with epilepsy go through. He understood the condition. I think that's the unique thing about that situation, which is something that if we do more awareness on that, I think in the years to come, there'll be lots of changes. Yeah.
I think so too. And I mean, that is to hear that you went down to that school to advocate for that young student really makes me happy. Thank you for doing such a thing, because not enough people would do that. And it really makes
Yeah.
me happy to see that the government has worked to put in protections for these children to go to school, because it is so essential for them, despite the challenges they're having. They need to learn, they need to develop social skills. And I think
Yes.
the thing I found with the parents with the research I'm doing, and this is where I have so much empathy for the parents, I think it comes down there, the fear someone will hurt their child. So it's not that they
Yes.
don't want them to learn. They're afraid to send them to school, thinking the what ifs of it. What if someone tries to beat my child if they have a seizure? What if someone
Yeah.
bullies my child? And it's understandable, because in doing my research and interviewing others throughout the continent, a lot of them have acknowledged to me that because of the lack of education, that many people still think that people with epilepsy are possessed by a demon or haunted, and they're afraid to have be around themselves or be around loved ones. Or I've heard horror stories of people while seizing getting beat up by others. It's really heartbreaking to see that kind of environment there. But I admit, I've heard stories throughout the US and Europe as well of
Yeah.
similar stories, sadly being robbed or being beaten or really needing help and people walking away from them. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
quite sad. But the fact that the government really is taking this seriously and putting the protections in place and still working with people like you to improve those protections, I think it sets a wonderful example. And I hope other countries in Africa will follow that example in time.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I think another thing that I would like to add is that besides, school authorities, are forcing learners with epilepsy to withdraw from school, and parents, failing to send their child to school, there's also another challenge. It's the learners themselves with epilepsy. The first challenges with the peers. I think I've noticed some cases of there's some instances of bullying in the school
Mhm.
because I think I once met a certain lady who told me that her son had dropped out of school because you know her his friends were making fun on
Mm.
of his condition. So that's another area for so as a way of solving that, another thing that we've been doing is going to schools, and we formed what we call an epilepsy club.
Oh,
So that,
nice.
yeah, that epilepsy club, we want to have young advocates. It's composed of learners with and without epilepsy. We want the learners to support each other. We want them to learn about human rights. We want them to understand what epilepsy is, because for most of the things that we do them because we've gone through them. For example, myself, I have epilepsy, but I did not understand what epilepsy is until I started reading. That's when I started to understand the condition. So I know that if everyone can, get to learn and understand the condition, I think most of the challenges that we go through will cease to exist. Yeah.
Oh, I agree with that for sure. And I think it's wonderful that you're forming this club to help not just students with epilepsy, but their peers to be able to learn to advocate for them, and the importance of everyone. Like you said, when it comes to human rights, everyone have opportunities to survive and succeed. And,
Yeah.
like I said, working with Dr. Casati in the DRC, the one thing that I really love is before COVID, he was going in the schools quite a bit, and he plans once the restrictions lit up to resume going to the schools. And he really focuses on letting people know it's not contagious. This is not
Yeah.
something that you could get from somebody, so there's no reason to fear people with epilepsy. And the fact that
Yeah.
people like you and him are doing what they can to remove the fear from the condition, which will decrease the stigma, I really think that is going to be essential for help laying the foundation, taking the steps needed to help gain better rights for people with epilepsy and lead to better opportunities. And to hear that one employer, you know, had empathy for his employee and really understood because of having a loved one. It's people like that I'm really grateful for, and I hope he will advocate not just for his employee, but work with other entrepreneurs in time to show there's no reason why you shouldn't hire someone with epilepsy. If they have the capability and there's a position they can benefit from, why not give
Yeah.
them the opportunity to have it?
Yeah, actually, another thing that I've been trying to work on over the past year is trying to bring more awareness, because I feel that the people who have epilepsy and are employed and do not have recurrent seizures, the one that I was saying that the employers do not know that they have epilepsy, I believe that those could be, those are role models, because people
Mhm.
can look up to them. Now people can understand that, okay, even people who have epilepsy can, get a job and, yeah, go to school, things like that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you created a nonprofit foundation called the Epilepsy Warriors Foundation for people with epilepsy, are in the process of registering your foundation. What is the mission of your organization?
Thank you. Our mission is to promote human rights, epilepsy awareness, and inclusive societies. Yeah, yeah. I think the mission, states most of the challenges that people with epilepsy go through, like exclusion in society. You know, uh, that's what led us into, coming up with this mission. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my mission focuses on two things, advocacy and education. And I'm hoping with
yeah,
my goal in time is to help people, in two ways. One, society not to fear and understand what this condition is so that the stigma will go down, and even in things like research or opportunities for doctors to improve care will be there. But I feel education is going to be so essential. And like you were
yeah,
saying, when you really started learning about epilepsy when you started researching it, because I found my doctors over here really didn't take the time or effort to really explain what I was going through. I just knew I had seizures, and to not
yeah,
have a seizure, I had to take my medicine. Once I started
yes,
my foundation, or prior, when I really started researching things to prepare for launching my foundation, there is so much that I've learned. And it's ironic because I've been dealing with this for 40 years. So you think I would have a really good understanding of the condition, but epilepsy
yes,
is so complex. There's so many different
that,
types of seizures. There's so many reasons people can develop epilepsy. It really shows how complex of a condition this is. And,
yes,
I applaud people who are looking for a cure for it. And I think it is a long-term goal we should focus on. But really, what I would love to see these people who are advocating for the medical research cure aspect of it is start now with how can we improve the lives of people with epilepsy, help them
that's
learn to
true.
control their seizures, help them to
Yeah,
contribute to themselves and society. And as we move forward and forward, make a plan to hit that goal to either, if we can't cure it, do what we can to offer the best treatments available so that these
yeah,
people can live a happy and healthy life.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yes.
what are you hoping to accomplish for those battling epilepsy in Malawi?
We're hoping to, achieve quite a lot of things, but I think we will achieve most of them. Mainly, most of the things that we want is for persons with epilepsy to enjoy their rights to the fullest. right to health services, right to education, right to employment. We want them to enjoy all their rights, right to access to justice. Most persons with epilepsy fail to access justice services. For example, with our foundation, we do document and follow up on cases of we call them disability-related cases. Yeah, so we want every person with epilepsy to enjoy their rights to the fullest. And we also want everyone, every Malawian, to know what epilepsy is. We don't want people to fear epilepsy. No, we want them to understand that epilepsy is a condition that is not contagious. Epilepsy is anyone at any age can can start having seizures and develop epilepsy, and they should not fear that. Yeah, so we want a lot. Yeah, so we know in order to achieve all the things that we want, we have to do a few things, like starting with our programs. Our programs are tailored in a way that address the needs of persons with epilepsy. And we're also trying to work with different organizations, including the government, because I strongly believe, and our foundation strongly believe that there's strength uh, once we work together. There's strength. The strength is in numbers. So that's why we're trying to work with the government and organizations, even communities. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and that is wonderful, because I think with the work the government has already done, plus what you're doing, it's really going to help to strengthen human rights for people with epilepsy there, and really do what they can to improve conditions in the country. I think that's really, really wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
If there is anything you could tell people when it comes to epilepsy, what would it be?
Um, Firstly, I've noted that most people do not think that they cannot get epilepsy. Because they weren't born with epilepsy. So I think my message would be anyone at any point in life can develop an epilepsy. People should not fear epilepsy, but they should try to understand and learn what epilepsy is, and they should never be afraid to assist a person having a seizure, because I think that's another area that I feel that is very important, because there are people with epilepsy who they have seizures, but they still go out. They go out, try to find piecework, and some go to school, and in some situations they might have seizures, and most people are scared to help them. They're scared to assist. So I think everyone should not be afraid of epilepsy. Epilepsy is not contagious. And another thing is, I want people to know that everyone has different abilities, including persons with epilepsy. We have the strength, we have the genius to become someone in life. Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
actually, we have examples. Yeah, we have lots of examples of epilepsy, persons with epilepsy who are very successful. They've gone to school. Some of them are working. Some of them are self-employed, and they're they're happily married. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And which is wonderful. And I hope in time to see those type of situations grow. I mean, even with myself being married, I'm very lucky that my husband is educated and compassionate, understanding, because I know there would be so many people who could not be the same way. And knowing that, despite how well I've done over the years, when I'm not doing well, he has enough patience, and he can understand. He can't put himself in my shoes, but he
Yeah.
realizes what he can do to make the situation the best he can. And even though it's hard for me to call him my caregiver, I don't like the thought of depending on him when I'm not well. He's been a wonderful caregiver. He really has done what he can to make sure that my health doesn't deteriorate.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
Yeah, I think just to share a bit about myself. I think I forgot to mention my age earlier. I am 32 years old, and despite having epilepsy, I believe I've managed to achieve quite a few things. I went to school, did my tertiary education, though I'm not finished with it yet. And also, you mentioned I'm a founder and executive director at the Epilepsy Warriors Foundation. That's an achievement. And I am also a vice president for Southern Africa under Epilepsy Alliance Africa. And I am chairperson for Cholo District Disability Forum, um, a forum that is under the Federation for Disability Organizations in Malawi. Yeah. And lastly, we mentioned that we were talking about, challenges about people, finding marriage. And also as person with epilepsy, we face challenges, getting into relationships with people. Yeah, so I'm proud to say that I have a girlfriend, and she's someone who is understanding. She doesn't have epilepsy. She's understanding. She's eager to learn. She's been learning, about epilepsy. She wants to learn more. She actually sometimes she would love to, assist with our work sometimes. So I think that's something that's wonderful and for people to learn from, because someone who does not have epilepsy but is eager and willing to learn about the condition, and you know she's someone who does not discriminate. She does not judge. I think we need more people like that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think we do need more people like that. And I think it's wonderful how supportive she is of you. And I think it's wonderful all these organizations you are taking leadership roles in and really doing
Yeah.
what you can to advocate, especially the one organization for the disability. It's like you're not even just advocating for people with epilepsy, but many who are in the disabled community in your country.
Yes.
I think that really is wonderful that you're stepping up and sharing your story and using it as an example to show people that there's no reason to fear epilepsy. There's no reason to fear people who have disabilities, that we can all work together and be part of society.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Again, I want to thank Samuel for coming and taking part. To see the great work we are doing, please like our social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We invite you to visit our website at www.defeatingepilepsy.org to see the amazing work we are doing and how we are making a difference for the epilepsy community. Thank you for your support, and together we will defeat epilepsy. Take care.